So my mother was an addict. She would go to 12-step programs like AA, NA, that kind of stuff, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. And I started going to Alateen for children of alcoholics. And my mother's addict friends would tell me that I, at 16 years old.
Awekenge, this is Mental Mythos, hosted by Asekho Toto. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Mental Mythos. I'm your host, Asekho Toto, and before we dive into today's incredible conversation, I have a small favor to ask. If you enjoy what you hear today, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but also helps others discover the valuable insights we share every week. And if you find today's episode particularly inspiring or insightful, don't forget to share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think could benefit from it. Thank you for your support. It truly means the world to us. Now, let's get back into our conversation.
So, my question towards you definitely did something that I just mentioned. Can you share with us a little bit about your early life and the significant traumatic experiences you faced, such as your mother's addiction and suicide attempt, your head injury, and your period of homelessness during high school?
Oh, yeah. And I'm speaking to like every person out there who had a parent who wasn't the parent that you would have hoped to have had. And sometimes even now it stings a little bit when I see something on social media about all mothers are loving and love their kids. And my mother didn't. And I didn't really believe that for a long time. And by the way, my aunt and my grandmother would say, your mother hates you. And I'd be like, well, that's an extreme statement. And my mother actually died a few months ago in November, and I discovered that, and we hadn't spoken in many years for my self-protection and because she chose not to. But I discovered when she died that she'd erased any trace on the internet that we were ever related. If you Google, who is Morgana Rae's mother, nothing comes up. If you Google my mother's name, my sister's name comes up, but I don't. So I had a borderline personality, drug addict, physically violent mother. And narcissist and maybe some other diagnoses. And I guess the great thing about being an adult now is now I know that has nothing to do with me. But when you're 12 years old and your mother tells you that you're a monster and that you're less than zero and that you're ruining her life, it's kind of hard to not take that in. So I moved to my father's house when I was 14, really to save my life because I just could not bear living with my mother anymore. She attempted suicide when I was 12 and I saved her life. I called the paramedics and she lived until last year because of me. And it looked like things were going to get better, but they didn't. And I was blessed to have parents who divorced when I was young so that I was able to escape to my father's house and had a few good years there until I got hit by a car and I was in a coma and I had a traumatic brain injury and I felt very behind in school because my brain wasn't working and doing what it used to do. So I moved back to my mother's house because we had a good relationship at that time. And that's the thing with a narcissist. It goes up, and a borderline personality. It goes up and it goes down. And it's very unpredictable. And when she loves you, she's the best mother in the world, and it's like the sun is shining, and then it switches with, on a hairpin turn. And one of the unintended benefits of having that kind of unpredictable parent is your intuition becomes incredible, because you have to survive, really recognize the tiniest micro signals if something is changing. So I moved back to my mother's house, and that just started out okay, and then really just deathly. I committed myself to a mental hospital when I was 17 years old, straight A student, and because I wanted to die all the time, between the traumatic brain injury and my mother telling me that I was worthless. I had no resources emotionally, and I just wanted to die. So I committed myself to a month in a psychiatric hospital. By the way, I hated every moment of it. I hear some people find solace or safety. I hated every moment of it. Not a good fit. But they told me when I left that I shouldn't go back to my mother's house. So I spent the rest of my high school sleeping on people's floors and borrowing rides to get to high school to graduate. And I did. And it's ironic because, high school is supposed to be this, terrible time with, mean kids and all that kind of stuff. I got that out of the way in elementary school when I had no friends and I was ostracized and all that. By the time I got to high school, everybody was nice to me. And it was simply the promise of graduating and being able to get away, run away to college, was what kept me alive. And there's one thing that I think is really, really important, especially because as a coach, I tend to, I have all these like really wonderful, bright, kind of trailblazing clients. And there's also in the personal development realm space a lot of like anti-medicine sentiment. So my mother was an addict. She would go to 12-step programs like AA, NA, that kind of stuff, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. And I started going to Alateen for children of alcoholics. And my mother's addict friends would tell me that at 16 years old, that I was an addict who had just never taken any drugs before, right? By the way, I was not taking any drugs. I was not even taking any antidepressants. I got off the anti-seizure medication like as soon as I could. I was so terrified of drugs because of this community of people telling me that drugs are bad. And so I refused to take antidepressants, even though I was suicidal for 2 years. Now I'm moving into 18 years old. And at this time, I was living on the dining room floor of some friends of my father's and borrowing their station wagon just to drive a few miles to get to high school and then drive back and do my homework. And that was my life at that time. And I was so desperately unhappy that I finally decided okay, I am so ready to kill myself that I will even take antidepressants, even if they kill me. And I took my first antidepressant and went to bed and woke up the next morning with just a little feeling of hope that I had not felt in years. Mm. And it didn't numb me out. It didn't make me happy. What it created at that time was this little gap, this little window between the pain and me, so that I could make a choice and I could function a little better. They had horrible side effects. I had to pee all the time. I mean, it made me super drowsy in the beginning. Not fun stuff, but it saved my life. And I got off of it when I was, as soon as I could get off of it. So I come from a perspective that, yes, do all the inner work. Go to a therapist, have friends, have a reason to live, even if it's just to stay alive for your pets, whatever it is. And if a medication can help, then that's what medication is for. And if the first one doesn't work, it's just not the right one for you. The problem, honestly, I think with medicine is it's kind of Russian roulette and they just don't know what's going to work for you. My aunt, Prozac helped her. Prozac is toxic for me. So I'm just putting that out there because I think that there are a lot of flaws in Western medicine. Yeah. And it can also be life-saving. And if you're in a dark place, you deserve access to all the tools and support available to you. So that's way back when in the early 1980s. I was hit by a car in 1983. So that's, 40 years ago last November. Like the day before my mother died. Very weird synchronicity of timing.
And some just a story that is really touching. I don't know why. Something that no child should have experienced, because most of the time we look up to our mothers, saying we are told that mothers are the pillars of families, and being able to hear such and not recognizing that what they say in a way would say, one would say they are lying, one would say that, or one would say in a way, one would say that they would blame all mothers, that they are all the same. And I just want to say this, it's very powerful that was shared, and it takes a lot from one to be able to say such. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. And while I was listening to you in terms of telling a story, and I feel like something that I've said with the guest, I just had a guest number, whereas we spoke about in terms of how we grow up, and when we come to such, I would say, measures or such issues, we the way that we find in terms of fighting coping mechanism, we go to the nearest reference and try by any means to be able to take drugs, to take alcohol. In your case, you didn't, and in a way, it actually changed the way, in a way of you ran away from it, because you had this perspective that you don't want to be like being able to be addicted to drugs, to be this certain person that will be addicted. And I don't want like addiction, it's really hard in the perspective of not only someone that has been dealt with it, and in the perspective of someone that has seen people that have been dealing with addiction. So I just wanted to touch on that. And another thing that, in terms of my follow-up question on that, through the experiences, definitely you dealt with a lot of mental health. As you said, that you handed yourself in, you put yourself into a mental institution. And definitely
hated it.
As someone that was very young, and at that age, I didn't know anything about mental health. On my side, because I grew up in a community that doesn't actually look onto mental health, doesn't educate people on mental health. I would say one of the reasons why I started this podcast, to be able to create that informative podcast so people can find how, to give up in terms of that. So in all of these, how has your mental health how have these experiences shaped your perspective on mental health and influenced your work as a spiritual in your spiritual life, and as a business success coach?
because I had a very early access to pain and how, that life can be really difficult. I think I was asking really deep questions at a very, very young age, like, what is it to be human? What is the nature of this universe we live in? And how do we have a better experience? I was actually, and this is really common when you've got a crazy, out of control addict parent, I often played the adult in relationships with other adults. I would be the comforter. I would be the coach to adults unprofessionally when I was 12. When I did graduate from high school, with all that drama, I graduated with honors anyway, with the brain damage and the homelessness and all of that. I still graduated, and I went to a very good college back east, and I studied religion because I'm still asking these questions of what is it to be human? What is the nature of the universe? How do we have a better experience while we're here? And I have to pause for a second because my cat is eating something that is poisonous for cats. I will be right back. Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
No. Dear Lord. I may have to rethink that house plan. Sorry. Okay, so where was I? So I studied religion. I focused especially on Eastern religion and Shiva, the god of death and destruction, and Buddhism, because I found just comfort with how do we, as human beings, relate to loss and disappointment and pain in life in a way that can empower us and that we can use to evolve and be helpful human beings and live good lives, which I think is, why we have religion anyway. And that eventually translated into my profession as a coach is still these questions of what is it to be human? What is the nature of the universe? How do we have a better experience? I've been coaching for 30 years now. Started out coaching in the entertainment industry because I'm in Los Angeles. And it sort of evolved over the years to really just focus on do-gooders because do-gooders tend to have the most pain and the most trouble with the very kind of core root survival stuff like making money, myself included. That's where I came from. And I had to find a way to make money that was in alignment with my values, desire to do good, be in integrity and all that kind of stuff. And I found that the root of my money issues had nothing to do with money itself or skills. Like I had half a dozen coaching certifications. I had mastered all the marketing. I was public speaking, had a bunch of celebrity clients, mountains of testimonials, and I was struggling to make $100 a month in Los Angeles, which is really impressive when, on the spectrum of failure. And what it ironically came down to, and it took some years to discover this because I took every class on mindset and marketing and sales and I'm in LA, so I have all these woo-woo spiritual friends who wave their hands and change my money DNA and speak codes and all this kind of stuff, and nothing was working. I was still struggling to make $100 a month in Los Angeles. And I had a session with my coach after just a major disappointment and huge despair. And he asked me two questions that kind of really tied it all together for me. First, he asked what had happened with me around money growing up. And I thought of stuff I hadn't thought of in decades, like my grandmother stealing my inheritance that my great-grandmother had left me, my mother and stepfather stole the money that my father had raised for my college and stole from him, forged his signature, just huge theft. And now I find out that my mother used me my whole childhood to extort money from my father, who was always in my life and devoted, and I would see every weekend, but I didn't know all this drama going on behind. So when he asked me that question, I was thinking about all the fights and family members not speaking to each other and all these messages that money got in the way of love, and that money causes injustice where people are starving and poor, and it's not fair, and I don't want to be part of that injustice. So it was like, oh, light bulb. Wow. Maybe I do have money issues that I really wasn't that seemed obvious at that moment. But that isn't what changed things for me. This coach, out of the blue, don't know what inspired him. He said, if your money was a person, who would your money be? And in that moment, because I was in such kind of a soul-crushing despair that I would ever succeed, ever be able to make a living doing what I'm good at, helping others, it seemed like the universe was just cruel and rejecting and hated me. And that goes back, to mom's stuff. When he asked me that question, I suddenly saw this person in my mind's eye of who money was in that moment. And he was this big, tall, scary, violent, kind of white supremacist biker dude with the tattoos and the long sideburns and the wife beater shirt. And he felt so real to me that if I were at a live event with this guy, I would have my eye on him all the time to create maximum distance between us. And that was my big aha moment, that no matter what I was doing, how many articles, newsletters, interviews, public speaking, no matter what I did, how much I was doing right, every cell in my body was creating maximum distance between me and this monstrous money guy to protect me. And that's 24/7. So it didn't matter what I did. I was protecting myself from money. And that money needed me to protect myself from. And I would never have money in my life if it was that guy. Today, and I'm not done with the process, that's just the beginning of it, but today, I say change happens at the speed of safety. If change isn't happening, something isn't safe. It's not your fault. However, you can change it, which is awesome. So I see this money monster biker dude, and it's really clear there's no way that I can have money in my life if it's that guy, because he's so bad and he deserves to be held at arm's distance. So I had to end that relationship. I had to get rid of him. I had to end that relationship because I could not have money in my life if it was him. Like a bad, abusive boyfriend who says that that you're just not good enough. You'll never do any better. He's the best you'll ever get while he's cheating on you and abusing you. That kind of dynamic was showing up in my relationship with money. So cats are going crazy in the background. I apologize if you can hear it. I don't know if you can.
I can.
Okay, great. So I get rid of the biker, which creates a new problem because I live in Los Angeles and I just got rid of my only relationship with money. And I needed a new relationship with money. Before the biker came back, because I felt like once I just ended the relationship with the biker, it was like, whoa, this empty space where he had been in my life my whole life and I had never even known it. And I didn't want him to come back. So I thought to myself, well, who could I have in my life who I would want so much that I'd be willing to have a relationship with this person, and I would want to have a relationship with this imaginary person, even if it's money. And that became my new relationship with money. When I asked myself this question, suddenly this totally new, handsome, sweetheart, romantic guy dressed in a tuxedo, holding a bouquet of red flowers, in love with me, wanting to woo me, is who popped into my mind. And he also felt so real. And I could feel how much he wanted to be with me. And he didn't feel like money. He felt like love. And he looked at me with the eyes of love. And this was to me so weird because I'd never thought of money that way. Wanting to loving me, being a cute guy, wanting to be with me, all imaginary personification of money once the monster was gone. And I could feel how much he wanted to be with me and how I had been breaking his heart by pushing him away. So I asked him what he needed from me to allow him to be with me because I didn't know how to allow money to be with me. And he, at that time, in March of 2003, he said two things. I need you to love me and I need you to stop treating me like a monster. So I made a decision that I would stop pushing him away. That next time he brought me a gift looking like a client who wanted to hire me, I would energetically say thank you and allow him in. And 4 people hired me that week at double what I had ever charged before. Now, what that has to do with mental health is what I learned, because then I started getting all these clients, and I was not marketing money at all at that time. I was just a coach specializing in the entertainment industry at that time. But what I found is, well, human beings, money is the number one excuse we give for what we can't have, do, or be. So it's an important thing to be able to address. But what I found when I started to coach them was that it was never about money. The money, you never find the money monster in money, in the money story, in the money drama. It's what money represents. The money monster is always, always hiding in anything that makes you feel unloved or unlovable. Anything that makes you feel not good enough. Anything that makes you feel unsafe. So any experience you've had in your life that made you feel unloved, unworthy, or unsafe, that's what I dig for in the first step of this transformational process. I also found, oh, and by the way, here I'm the person who was, struggling to make $100 a month. I've made millions of dollars since. I've coached so many clients who were like struggling and had nothing, and they've made millions of dollars since. So when I talk about the root cause is always love and worth and safety, I'm not talking theoretically. I'm talking about, I have tested this on thousands of people and I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And it always is this root cause of, am I loved? Am I worthy? Am I safe? Do I feel loved? And does the universe want me here? Anything that ever makes you not want to be alive, that's the stuff we put into the monster. That's really what the monster is about. And we dig all that stuff, we personify it into a monster, and then you annihilate the monster. You make a decision because really the monster allowed its course will drive you insane and kill you slowly and make you want to die. So there's only one of you. You get to choose. It's the monster or you. And when you choose yourself, you get to reject everything that is no longer acceptable in your life experience. When you destroy the monster, you are rejecting the abuse and every experience that is just no longer welcome and acceptable. So it's a profound declaration of self-love. All the things that make you crazy, they go into the monster and you blow it up or you slice it up or whatever you need to imagine to make it completely gone, no traces left. And on the other side of the monster, all that remains is love. And we personify that too into a person. Now, if the pain that brought you to this practice was money, I call it the money honey. Why? Because it rhymes. But I've done the same process slaying the love monster, everything that makes love dangerous. Every time loving someone has led to a feeling of betrayal and loss. I've done this with disease monsters where it's like with clients with illnesses. And it's like, that's the way the universe is showing up to challenge you and try to destroy you. And I've had clients heal from some really serious stuff. And by the way, I'm not John of God. I'm not, marketing myself as some faith healer. I'm just saying everything is our relationship with life. Everything is our relationship with ourselves. And again, change happens at the speed of safety. If something isn't changing, let's find out what isn't safe and make it safe, and then see what happens. And I've seen really huge, miraculous stuff happen with money, love, and health really quickly, including with myself when I slayed my love monster. I met my husband. I was already 45 years old, never, ever, ever married. I met my husband 2 months later. We got married for the first time a year and a half later. We've been married 26 times in 22 countries. So I also have a theory that all this work that you're doing that you aren't seeing the results, it's building up. It's like planting a lot of seeds that then can show up really big, much bigger than you expected when it becomes safe and you can let the wall down. But it's not worth letting the wall down when the world feels like it hates you and it's unsafe and rejecting. You deserve to be safe. So what we do is we put all the things that make you feel unloved, unworthy, unsafe into this imaginary monster. And you make a decision. And I'm really speeding through it. And I have resources to take you through the process because it's not an intellectual exercise. It doesn't work when it's an intellectual exercise. You really need to feel it. You need to have a really, really good reason to go through the effort of really fleshing out this monster unique to you. What is it? How big is it? What does it smell like? Is it male? Is it female? What is its fingernails, its teeth, its eyes look like? What does it say to you? What does it want to do to you? Really making it real. That's step number 2. Annihilating it by any means necessary. Step 3, meeting your money honey or whatever honey. Step 4, having a conversation with your money honey. Like, what do you need from me so that you can be with me? Not what do you need from me so you can love me, because this is love. So you don't need to earn it. But presence, if you've been pushing something away, how do you let it in? And then the 6th step is take action, physical action. Action is magical if you want to have like real world results. It's almost like a magical spell. It's a self-care. In my experience, what will make your money honey happy or love honey or health honey or whatever honey happy always, always is anything that exalts you. Self-love, self-care, self-respect, self-choice. That is what will turn your money honey on, or whatever honey it is. It's like, that is, I liked, because of my religion major, I like with, Hinduism and Buddhism, I like to see the universe as a benevolent teacher. Not necessarily pleasant, but underneath the unpleasantness that there is a love and a compassion that's deeply, deeply true to, the Shiva traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism. And so life gets our attention through 3 primary teachers of love, money, and health. And those are the challenges that are like a portal to our evolution, to access deeper love, deeper awareness of our resourcefulness, deeper self-compassion and compassion for others. And here's a really big point that I forgot to share, but I think it's really, really important, is your victim experiences are sacred. I know that there's a lot of people, very well-intentioned people, who will tell you to get over it, forgive, move on, raise your vibrations, all that kind of stuff. And by the way, this has been going on since the book of Job in the Old Testament, where his comforters in air quotes are saying, gee, Job, you must have done something really bad for all this bad stuff to happen. But we, reading the story, know that Job didn't do anything wrong. It just happened. People like to blame the victim because it makes them feel safer, like they have some control and it won't happen to them. So we forgive them for that. But your victim experiences we're going to use them. They're sacred and they're useful because they are the first step that creates like this leverage, what I call alchemy, the transmutation of lead in human experience into gold. So the lead is the fuel. Your victim experiences are the fuel for your evolution and empowerment and enlightenment. And they also give you the humility to respect the experiences of other human beings so that you can have compassion and help, so you can be a witness, a non-judgy, non-abusive witness. And honestly, for like all the years that I've been coaching and all the, hard work I've done, I think the most magical thing that I do is I am very often the first person who listens and validates a person's victim experience and says, wow, that's terrible. And sometimes that is the key to really just unlocking the healing, to finally be heard and witnessed and believed so that you can stop screaming at the universe to be witnessed and heard and believed. And that then you can stop fighting and then we can move on to what is going to make the world safe for you. I find the whole alchemy of digging up the root causes, personifying it as a monster, eradicating the monster, and feeling the absence of that monster so that all that remains is love. And then having this experience of life loving you and seeing yourself through the eyes of a life that loves you. What happens is now you can take a look at your situation, no matter what it is, how crazy, insane, awful, chaotic, whatever it is. And you can see it with a new eye and a new power and a new resourcefulness. And you can see opportunities and you can see what has absolutely nothing to do with you. And you can see your own value. And that's when things change. And that's the connection between what I do with money, what I'm famous for, all these people who have made 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 figures that I've coached, and mental health, because what I do is really not about money at all. It's really about your relationship with life and yourself, and everything else ripples out from that. And really, really important to just reiterate, stuff happens. Painful, awful things happen to good people, and it's not your fault. But what I want is for you to have the ability to respond and use it and turn it into a superpower, whatever you've been through, because I think that is the purpose of life.
Spoke a lot, and also you brought some things that I feel like actually important. Firstly, I just want to touch on it's not a fault. And I definitely agree with you when you said that the most bad things happen to good people. And sometimes sugarcoat it and tell ourselves that's life. And to those people, to that certain thing that happened to those people, we don't actually acknowledge their pain, acknowledge that the way they are feeling. That's where they end up not seeking, I would say, help, where they don't stumble, they start the path of mental health, of healing, And it's something that it's quite important that you mentioned that you, in a way, you try by any means of being validating their own feelings, what they are feeling. And I think in a way, you actually recognize that you've been there yourself. You have experienced that thing of not being validated or feeling the way that they are feeling. So nevertheless, I, and it really gave me what you just said. It gave me a different perspective when it comes to money. It gave me a different perspective when it comes to, in a way of, I would say, when I say in terms of money, in terms of how do you look at it, I feel like in a way I always looked at it as a survival, in a way of, if I don't get money, I won't get where I am now. I won't buy the equipment that I need for podcasts. I won't buy that. I won't buy that. I won't buy that.
And that's very interesting because it makes money the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I want it to be is I want it to be a life partner worthy of your deepest admiration and trust and partnership who wants to save the world too.
So one of the things that we keep on saying, and also I think it's all on also in the Bible, but I don't know whereas man is the root of all evil. It's something that
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to interrupt you right there because I'm so excited. So, first of all, love is not evil. Love, real love, is never evil. Love is generous, noble, expansive, kind. It is our best selves. Love is not greedy, exploitative, scarcity. That's not love. And I have a friend in England who took a class on ancient Aramaic, which is the original language of the Old Testament. And in the original translation, it didn't say that. It said the worship of money will cause problems. Yes, of course, yes. Who would disagree with that? That's not love. So you get to be loving. You get to be loving to yourself. You get to be loving to this human, imaginary, money honey person who loves you and wants you to thrive. And you get to have a loving relationship with life. I believe that the more loving you are, the more you get to prosper. And you must include yourself in that love. Because if you abuse yourself, you will break your money honey's heart. And how can he be with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually does. And also, I was going to touch on something that is quite important. After I actually tried work on myself and told myself that I'm going to work on myself, one thing that I realized that the fact that a lot of things came into my way, in also money. And at some point, I view it as something that, as much as I don't need a lot of money, but I need money that I'll be able to, in a way, just have on my bank, just in a way, not having to misuse it. I believe that most people misuse money, and as you said that, in terms of creating that monster, people see it as a monster. So in a way of, they quickly, I would say, spend it in a way. But nevertheless, I just want to say, I'm seeing the time now. I was just want to say thank you so much for thank you so much for sharing knowledge about me.
Oh, I promise to give resources for going deeper into the process at your own pace, because I know that I sped through it and I left so much out. So you can go to morganarae.com. It's just my name is one word.com. And I've got my 4-part Money Magnetic video series. I've got my Money Love quiz on the homepage. I've got a blog with hundreds and decades of answering audience questions and, with articles and videos and stuff like that. So lots and lots of resources. And I have my best-selling book, Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. It's a book and a self-coaching system. My client, Pam, had her first $250,000 sales month on her own using the book before she ever hired me, before I knew who she was. About what you were saying about you just need enough money. What if you were to say you just need enough love? Like, don't push love away. Call in all the money to share it and be generous and do good in the world. You do not make money safe so that I don't know if you like guys or you like girls or you like non-binary, whatever your flavor is, it doesn't matter. It works. But just imagine money was the love of your life in the form of, whatever kind of person inspires you who just wants you to be a hero. And I'm really speaking to the men right now when I'm talking, just wants you to be a hero. And don't you want to be that hero for her?
Mm.
So find a way to just, slay the monster of limitation so that it is safe and it does allow you to do more good. There are plenty of bad people with lots and lots of money and they're not happy and they're scared and they do bad things with it because nothing is enough for them because they still live in scarcity and they still have money monsters no matter how much they have. And we want to balance that with people who do good and have abundance and live not in fear, but live in love and abundance and share and want to love and help and respect the humanity of everybody.
Okay.
So website, morganarae.com. Lots of free stuff there. If you're going to buy anything, buy my book and then come back to the website, go to the book page, enter your name, email, and receipt number, and then you will get a complete bonus recording of an audio Q&A class that I did for book owners that nobody on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of those places know anything about. There are bonuses in the book, but then there's an extra bonus at my website that you only know about because you're listening to this podcast.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.